joined this morning by my colleagues, Martin Nave, Rashida Caldwell, our president, Helen Hudson, myself, and Councilor Manto. Also here is Chief Mons and his team here with us. This morning we are going to talk about the condition of the fire department maintenance garage. And here with us, the chief is going to lead us through as to what's going on and the need that need to be addressed with it.
Okay. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Council. Good morning, Councilor Majuk and Madam President. I'm going to give a summary about where we were at, which was a functioning maintenance facility at 312 State Fair Boulevard, where we're at now, which is an unsafe floor with no inside space for our mechanics to work. And our next steps, what we're hoping to move to, is to solidify a short-term, when I say short-term, a 5-year plan at least, to relocate into a different facility until we can assess and reconstruct 312 State Fair Boulevard where the floor is unsafe. So just a quick history, 312 State Fair Boulevard was built in 1969. We had some handouts. Handout number 1, it kind of shows the history of the maintenance facility and the size of the fire trucks and how the fire trucks are bigger and they weigh almost 2 to 3 times more nowadays than they were back when this facility was built 56 years ago. So basically we've kind of outgrown it capacity-wise and with the specs of our apparatus. Over at our maintenance division, they do a lot of our they do all of our fleet maintenance. They acquire all of our apparatus. They do all the preventive maintenance for all of our vehicles. We have over 113 vehicles in our fleet. They also are in charge of keeping upkeep of all of our fire stations and all of our fire facilities. So everything they do with our capital plan, most of the money in our capital plan is ran through Chief Zach Smith, who's here with me today. He works with my office to make sure we have the funding to do all that, but it all kind of works out of that 312 State Fair Boulevard. So a lot of things go on over there besides the mechanic work. Our mechanics, you know, everybody knows our fire trucks, they're specialized equipment. They have fire pumps, aerial ladder hydraulics, water foam, delivery systems, and they need to work flawlessly during an emergency. So getting these things fixed in a timely manner is important to make sure our spare apparatus along with our frontline apparatus isn't putting our firefighters or our constituents at risk. So right now we're at a position where we basically have a gun to our head. We're not able to fix our apparatus in a safe indoor facility. Just a history of what happened to the floor. The structural concern started about approximately in September of 2024. The city engineering department with CNS, they did a facilities assessment and they identified some small cracks in the maintenance garage floor. Then on July 18th, a fire apparatus lift jack broke through that slab, revealing severe structural damage. So at that point, city engineering and CNS declared the floor unsafe for vehicles, lifts, and any other heavy loads. It also restricted foot traffic in certain areas of that floor. Underneath that floor, there's broken sanitary, sewer, and oil water separator lines that come from our bathroom, and it comes from the floor when the excess fluids fall on the floor from the fire trucks. So all that underneath, because the floor became broken in a failed state, those particular systems also are in bad repair, and we were told we couldn't use the bathrooms and we couldn't use that oil water separator on top of the floor being broken. That particular, and once I get done, I'm going to give this overview, and then Ian Brown and Michael Lehman from assessment, Ian Brown from engineering can answer all these questions. But the area at 312 State Fair Boulevard, it's already designated as a DEC Superfund location. So when this broken floor occurred, we called the DEC. There was a spill number just in case there was any contaminants that leaked into the soil. So that's underway with the city engineering and CNS. I spoke about our operational impacts. Right now we have a gun to our head basically because we can't operate inside of a maintenance indoor facility. Right now we're working outside. The weather's been great for us, so we've been able to buy a little bit of time doing the work the mechanics have been doing outside. But with the weather coming, the freezing temperatures and the snow, they no longer are going to be able to do that. So that's why I say we have a gun to our head, because we're at a really tight time crunch to actually find a building to get into. Right now, Syracuse University is letting us use one of their garage bays up on Ainsley Drive. It's a small garage bay that doesn't fit our whole apparatus, so it's a really an emergency situation type of situation. So multiple times since this occurred in July, we've got down to no spare apparatus. So the worry is we're going to run out of fire trucks because we can't fix them. Due to this, we try to find multiple sites. We reach out to multiple places. The only place we were able to find a temporary spot was Syracuse University. So that's when we decided to put out an RFQ, because we know that 312 State Fair Boulevard is going to need an assessment done, and it's going to have a plan on how to reconstruct it, which we're thinking is going to be a 2 to 5 year process. And so we put out the RFQ on August 21st. Last Friday, we did get some responses back. The RFP committee met yesterday. We reviewed all those responses, and we're in the ongoing process of evaluating the responses. We'll probably know by next week the top 1 or 2 candidates. But the goal from this process, from the RFP, was to find a place we could lease, if it met all of our needs, as a turnkey, walk right in and bring all of our stuff, or to purchase so we could actually do capital improvement plans if that facility didn't meet our needs to just move in. So our number one concern is trying to get back into 312 State Fair Boulevard after engineering figures out what's the process to get through that and how much that's going to cost with that cost analysis. In the meantime, we need to have a place we can lease or purchase in a compliant building just to get us through this winter and through the process of engineering, figuring out how much it's going to cost to rebuild our building over at 312 State Fair Boulevard. We're also analyzing if we can't find a place through this RFQ process, we at least need a place to store our vehicles at while they're not getting fixed. Right now, they can sit outside, but when they become in freezing temperatures, the major components of the trucks are going to freeze. And then we have about, besides the fire trucks that are on the front line, our spare apparatus is worth probably $15 to $20 million. So we want to try to protect those assets by having those in some type of secure storage. So, we met yesterday for the RFP committee meeting. I talked to Councilor Majuk, and one of the things he was asking me is, what can the council do to help? I think right now we're at a point where we're definitely in an emergency situation, and what I would ask for is funding to retrofit a temporary heated space for the storage of our vehicles before freezing weather sets in. Like I said, we got about $15 to $20 million in assets of apparatus that isn't on the front line, and when those frontline apparatus break, these backup spares go on the front line while we fix the frontline apparatus. So I'm going to be looking for your support for some emergency funding. Ian Brown has figured out what it would cost to possibly retrofit some spaces, but through the RFQ process, we are trying to evaluate different places we can go to maybe have storage if it wouldn't be fit enough to actually do our maintenance operations in there. The second piece of support I would ask is when we do identify a building, which is probably on our end the hardest part, because we need certain things that a building for us to move into. The floors have to be a certain thickness, the height needs to be a certain height, we have to have a certain amount of doors to get in and out. So there's certain things that we have to do, and until we meet that, find a building with that criteria, that's what we're working on now. But when we do find a building that we all agree in the RFP committee agrees that we found a suitable place, is to ask for your support to lease or purchase that building if a purchase is available. If no viable options from the RFP process come up, I would ask, because it's an emergency situation, that we'll be able to, outside of the RFP process, depending how that goes, still try to secure a building, whatever legal process we need to go through that. So there's no legislation to provide now because we don't have a concrete answer, but I know there's time limits to when we submit legislation, so I'm just asking for your grace because of this emergency, that when we do find a place, if we could put something on the agenda and have your support, and I'll make sure you guys are all kept in the loop of exactly what steps we're taking, so it's a collective process on what we're doing for our next steps, and it won't be a surprise. And third thing I think is, whenever CNS and city engineering figure out what we can do over at 312 State Fair Boulevard, because the goal over there, as I stated, and you can look in the handout, that facility was so old and it was out of date. I think what I would ask is any rebuild that we do over there turns into a modern facility that can handle our fleet over the next 50 to 65 years and make sure that it's safe and able to grow with our fleet. And I just want to recognize our maintenance team, because our mechanics, to be able to work over the last 5 or 6 weeks in these conditions, I mean, they're out on the hot days. We're putting up pop-up tents, and they're going above and beyond to do our mechanical work. So I just want to say thank you to Zach Smith and the mechanic team, because we've been in a pretty bad spot the last couple weeks, and it's only going to get worse with the bad weather coming. So that's kind of what I got with a summary overview. Any engineering questions, Ian Brown is here to answer those. And then Michael Lehman is here. He's kind of being the point guard on finding a new facility, the RFQ process, and he could talk about those types of topics. Is there any questions that I can answer based off that summary?
So Chief, over the years since you have been a chief, I have watched you collaborate with other municipal, or at least municipalities, around fire and the vocation in itself, mm-hmm. right? And I have seen you reaching out, trying to be a good steward, trying to be a good team player, and trying to be a good collaborator, right?
Yes.
Case in point, such as when the tower was built, other people are coming in to use it, and you're very open, very, because you see the need mm-hmm. of other individuals or other municipalities
yes.
need to want to use it for their training.
Yes.
And you've been very open about it,
yes.
right? Now there's a time when Chief Mons and his team need to be thrown a little bone, just like he has been throwing.
Yes.
Are there any municipalities around here
yes.
that you can tap in and maybe do intermunicipal agreement where we are heading into winter, and I don't know even if today, if we were to approve a space, that it would be ready in time for you to use it.
Yes, and so based on your last point, that's why we're also possibly looking for a storage facility to at least keep our stuff inside while we figure out this longer-term solution. To your point about collaborating with other agencies, when we reached out to Syracuse University, they weren't the only place. We reached out to all our city partners, county partners in the state. The problem is the facility we need, there's not that many of these facilities around in this area at all. Even on the commercial real estate market, a place that can have a certain depth and thickness in the floor, have certain heights in the ceilings, to be able to have places on the ceiling where we could retrofit our air line drops, our gas drops, and all the things that go into a maintenance garage. There aren't that many facilities that could handle a fire truck that weighs 80,000 pounds. So that's kind of, in the places that do, they're kind of overcapacitated. Even as we are trying to partner with DPW to some extent, we were running an estimate if we were able to maybe do some storage over there. We're looking at $800,000 just to move into DPW because of the way our fleet is and what they already have and the capacity limits that come with trying to force your way square peg into a circle hole. So we've called as many people in the city, as many people in the county, some private entities that have larger vehicles. There's a capacity issue, there's labor issues, and there's other issues that we weren't able to come up with any secure place besides Syracuse University allowing us to use that one garage bay for.
Is there a cost to Syracuse University?
No,
there's no cost.
At this point, he's letting us use it at
Okay.
no cost.
Okay.
I think we got an agreement for $1.
Okay.
So we kind of, and we're using that. Our largest trucks barely make it in there, so we're using that. What is that? Once or a couple times a day? Okay.
Once a day?
Once a day, we're probably using it for once a day to get a truck in there, compared to having our garage where we have 6 garage doors where we can have multiple trucks in there. We have, I believe, 6 mechanics. We have 6 mechanics that are constantly working on our 113 vehicles. So this has slowed us down. And yeah, we try to reach out to, from the county executive level to the state fair, the building that we need with all the specs that were in our RFQ, there aren't many options, and that's the number one issue. And if they are an option, they're already occupied.
Chief Mont, how much, I mean, as far as square footage, how much square footage you know, how much you need? 'Cause you have a lot of fleet.
It's gonna like 12,000 to like 19 or
Even like approximately, I know you have a lot of fleet.
Yeah, so I'll let Michael Lehman has all the information on what we have and what we were looking for. And Michael, do you just wouldn't mind coming up and speaking about that? And thank you.
Sure thing, Chief. Good morning, councilors. Councilor Caldwell, the requirement for square footage, we asked for a range of 15 to 25,000 in the RFQ.
The other question I have, Chief, is, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Councilor.
The other question I have is, at any point, was this part of the CIP, which is Capital Improvement Plan at all?
Well, all of our buildings, since I've been the chief, working with Chief Smith, we basically broke down our capital planning to explicitly try to remodel or repair or have a preventive maintenance plan for the critical parts of the fire stations: roofs, doors, windows, the overhead doors that work a lot. One of the criteria, one of the components of the stations, and over here at our training facility, that was Chief Smith and his team identified these oil water separators. These buildings, part of the problem is these buildings were built in the 70s. I think the average age of our fire stations are over 50 years old. And like these critical components have never been maintained. I wouldn't say maintained, but they've never been serviced, right? So there's other issues probably brewing in some of the fire stations. We know Station 2 and Station 9 have an oil water separator that we need to address that has been in the capital plan. But as we were addressing this, we were going through COVID and there was a supply chain issues and then having the labor force to actually do the work. So a lot of our planning got stalled on that front. But our goal is to continuously monitor and have these type of situations planned for before they happen. I think we identified that this was an issue with the floor. We never thought we would get to the point where we couldn't use it at all. We kind of figured at some point we would have a slower process. We would be able to like work through a winter, identify building to relocate and do the same process, not in an emergency situation. So our team over there, they do a great job with our apparatus and the buildings. So they're also, the supervisors not only are experts on fixing our apparatus, but they know all of our stations, like our engineering team knows, our Zach Smith and our other chief over there, Jeff Grosso, and Jamie Pinkley, they know our buildings inside and out. And so we try to plan for those needs that are coming up, and this was one that was identified. We did a facilities assessment of all the fire station facilities last year. Most of the things that were identified were already in our capital plan, so we already had to address some things, but this is one that was identified. It's just larger than we had in our plan, I would say.
Other questions?
Chief, how many sites have been identified?
Through the RFP process, I know some of it I can't speak publicly, but we did have about a half a dozen responses back. I'll let Michael Lehman speak. I don't know how much publicly I can speak about it, but I was kind of told that process has to be not public until we identify one of the locations, or if we rule out none of them.
Completely understand. I just want to know how many sites, and out of the sites that were identified, were they close to or up to our standards? Just trying to understand where we are with that.
Thank you, Councilor. My understanding is I can only speak about that. We are evaluating the responses right now. I can't provide any details about any of the responses.
So is the goal to temporary chief and both of you guys to move their chief and then move back after that fixes? Like after you get it fixed?
Yes, that's our number one goal,
Okay.
is to
Okay.
get our fire mechanics over into a space so they can work while Ian Brown and CNS figure out what we need to do to fix up 312 State Fair Boulevard. And when that time comes, we move back. And one of the other things that Ian Brown could speak to also is over at the DPW, their maintenance garage where their mechanics work, their floor at some point soon is gonna also, probably not this bad, but gonna need to be replaced. And then we were hoping that this building that we moved to would be a swing space for when we're done, that they would be able to come over and use that space while their floor gets fixed. So
Chief, well, that's 312 when you talk about fixing and moving it back. If you were to go back to 312, you would have to expand it, correct?
Yes, kind of to what I was trying to say earlier, I don't know if I articulated it well, is that building was 56 years old and those trucks were so small. That building was built for those types of trucks, and so the goal would be to expand that out. I think 120 feet by 60 feet is what we're looking at. What is it now about? Probably. So it's probably 60 by 60?
So it would be double.
60
You would
by
have to
80.
expand it double.
Yep, and we have the room to do it over there, and our training facilities there, so it's nice to have everything together, because sometimes the firefighters that are on duty can drop the truck off and do some maintenance on it, and then they can go do training at the same time. But right now, we just need a place immediately to figure out where we can go to, you know. But the goal is to eventually, once we do the cost analysis of what everything's gonna cost, to go back into that building and have it so it fits our new trucks. And the trucks are only gonna get bigger and heavier in the future. They're not gonna get lighter, I would say.
Chief,
Yes.
has there been any accidents? People
the-
working, have there been any accidents where they slipped, they fell?
We definitely, the mechanics do get injured once in a while. I don't think we've had anything that's directly related to the floor at this point.
Okay, so OSHA hasn't been in there, noticed any violations?
No, not at this time. And right now, it's restrictive. I know you came over for a
Right.
visit, and yeah, we try to keep the mechanics off the areas that are really in a place that we told them that, per the engineering, that we can't walk on. But we have so many parts to our maintenance. We have our lifts over there, all of our tools and equipment, all of our supplies, our parts that are, you know, needed to fix the truck. So that place is like our hub for our fire department. And, you know, I think our number one resource in the fire department is our people. The next thing, I would say, our fire trucks, because without a fire truck, there's no good having the best firefighter show up without the truck with water to put out. So
I can say this. When I went there and I saw the cracks in the floors, and you told me stay away from that section, they're uneven. The sewage area, horrific. It's horrific condition, and I really believe this is you. You know, you go to work every day, but you have to be careful you don't slip or there's any accident. So right now I am concerned because of the hazardous conditions that you are working with.
yes, I agree with that, Councilor.
Thank you.
Nave.
So Chief, is it my understanding that with firefighter truck being so specialized that you needed specialized mechanics to a point that there isn't any private entity locally that can fix that a truck of that capacity?
So and we did an analysis, and I don't have those dollar amounts with me. I think I might can pull them up real quick. But if we were to farm out, there are places that fix these trucks, but I think they're a year backed up. If we depending on what it is, if we gave the waiting period is over a year long, and for the cost of what we have our mechanics on our staff for, to farm that out, it's like, I can't recall, but it's extremely expensive, and the turnaround to get the truck back is not a good place. Now, if there's a few of them that we could put in a situation to get it fixed because we have to get it back, we will. We have some trucks that are under warranty that we will try to do that, but there are still long waiting times for the labor to be done and for the parts to come in also with some of them, so that's also an issue.
Okay. Other questions? So what's the path forward here?
So the path forward initially,
yeah.
We're assessing a place we can immediately go to either move our operations, and if that's going to be prolonged, because if the RFQ doesn't produce any good results where we pick one place that we're going to move into, then we're going to be asking for emergency funding to, if one of these places in the RFQ submissions is viable to, like, maybe we can possibly still get it to move in there for storage and then retrofit it to store the vehicles, or to figure out where we could store our vehicles at until we find a place that we can do our maintenance operations out of. And then right now, CNS and city engineering are already beginning what it would cost to redesign our 312 State Fair Boulevard, and what that plan would look like and what that cost possibly would be. So the thing with this, there's multiple things going on. We have 312 State Fair Boulevard where the floor is unsafe. That at one time we want to be able to go back there. We need a space right now to move into before the cold comes. Hopefully this space is a space we can stay into for the next several years until we get the concrete plan of what we're doing at 312 State Fair Boulevard. And then if we can't find a place that's suitable to do our operations with our maintenance division, we're going to be looking for a storage space to move into, so at least we can keep our $15 to $20 million worth of assets out of the freezing and snowy weather.
And I don't know if this is my question. What's the tentative timeline to? Because I know we are in the
Yes.
process of RFQ, right? RFQ. Think of it as RFP.
Yeah.
RFQ, right? Right.
And
So what's a tentative timeline in this, in terms of, okay, this is going on, when do we expect like a legislation in front of us to?
well, as soon as we identify a building, I'm going to try to submit an emergency piece of legislation that can be waived onto the very
Okay.
next council agenda.
So it will just depend
Yes.
tentatively
Yeah.
in terms of when you get this going as quickly as possible.
And I
Okay.
think our RFQ process, the goal is, we got another meeting scheduled for next week already. Between now and then, hopefully we can assess the submissions and we can either pick one or rule out everything, and then we move to the next step of maybe coming to you with a waiver if we identify something that might have been outside the RFQ process, or through negotiations that weren't in the RFQ process to find a building that fits our needs.
So it'd be safe to say probably a month or so, right?
We could
Probably a
possibly find a building within the next couple days. It depends on, but as soon as we identify something through the RFQ process, whether we can find a building or not, and if we don't, then we have to move on to the next process after the RFQ process, which we've given everybody the ability to offer a building to lease or to purchase, and we only got a certain amount of responses. So I would hope we can move on from there.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sharon Owens. It definitely won't be a couple days. They have to go and do their due diligence. You know, we had the RFP committee. So I think your estimate of a month of at least for us identifying the right facility and getting back to you is probably accurate. The imminent, as the chief has talked about, is that we need to get these multi-million-dollar apparatus out of the cold. We can't have the especially the pumpers, that water freezing in those. We just bought those trucks, right? And so we're working diligently. I just want to give kudos to this team between fire and finance and engineering, trying to get us a path forward to get these things in. And then we'll go to the next discussion about our existing building, its capacity. It was built in the 60s. And so equipment has gotten bigger, longer, wider. Our facilities don't keep pace with the changing of this apparatus.
Chief, when you get a chance, could you send over, when the time has come, after you guys figured out everything, the numbers as far as retrofitting, the numbers for the storage facility, if that's a possible route, and also
Okay.
once engineering and CNS come together to do what they have to do to send us what the repairs and everything is going to be to get our building up to date as well?
Yes, Ian Brown told me today that that's all in motion right now, so we're just waiting for those documents and those figures to come. And I believe if anything comes first, the first piece of legislation, if we find a building we can move into temporarily, we'll have cost analysis with that and what that would cost. So that possibly could be the first piece of legislation you see. Or if we don't identify a place we can move into because maybe the floor isn't thick enough to hold a truck to go up on the lift, but if we can park apparatus in there, we might be coming with legislation to utilize a building to at least store apparatus, because right now we don't have any place.
And all of that is a part of the retrofitting of the price, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Other questions? Well, I think, Chief, we are with you, and whatever you can find in terms of addressing this matter, I think this body will be
Okay.
willing to collaborate with you and figure out the right path forward. If nothing else, that will conclude our meeting today.
Okay.
Thank
I just
you,
want to
Chief.
say
Yes.
thank you, because I've engaged with every counselor that is on the Common Council, and you've asked me questions. I've tried to get the answers, and I just want to thank you for understanding and supporting us, because, like I said, this is a critical time for us, and I appreciate the support.
You're very welcome. So that will conclude our meeting today. Have a good day. Thank you.